Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today it is time to discuss the Pick My Book winner for March. That book was The Toll by Sherry Priest. So The Toll is described as a Southern Gothic horror with a contemporary twist, which I definitely agree with, I guess. I had never heard of the author prior to 2019, but her short little biography in the back of the book says that she is one of the most popular and involved authors in the steampunk urban fantasy genres. So I've never, to my knowledge, read steampunk. I have read urban fantasy before, but I wouldn't call it a genre that's at the forefront of my reading the world, whatever. So no experience with Sherry Priest. And I do have one other book by her. It is called The Family Plot, and you may hear more about the family plot soon. So stay tuned. Subscribe if you haven't, so you can hear all that yummy goodness still to come. So there were things that I liked a lot about the Toll, and then there were things that I wanted more from in the book. I wouldn't say that there's anything specific about the book that I hated. Here's one of the things that leaves me a little bit neat about the book, a little bit conflicted about it. I obviously picked it up based on the synopsis. The synopsis describes a married couple, Titus and Melanie Bell, who are traveling to a campsite to celebrate their honeymoon. And they're traveling along a specific highway through the Okefenokee swamp. This is in Georgia. And they come across, or they come upon, this one-lane bridge. And after attempting to cross it, something happens. Titus wakes up in the middle of the road. His car is there. Doors are open. Melanie, however, has disappeared. So that's what you know about the book going into it, and that's the reason that I picked it up. However, I would really question if this book is about Titus and Melanie at all. I think Titus and Melanie are the most recent victims of an event that triggers us as the readers to actually learn more about the town and about a specific resident named Cameron. Cameron is a teenage boy who was abandoned at a very young age and taken in by these two older women named Daisy and Claire. They are cousins, I believe. I don't think they're sisters. I think that they're cousins. And Daisy and Claire have raised him, and they're very protective of him. And I think of everybody in the book, you get to know Cameron the most. So while these things are happening to Titus, who's lost his wife and is, because of that, stranded in this town, this small Georgia town that he knows nothing about and knows no residents of, I feel like Cameron is maybe the one that we, as the reader, care about. It's really, that's one of the things about this book that kind of makes me feel conflicted. I'm not sure who the actual protagonist of the story is. I feel like it's a shared role amongst several different characters in the book, and in general you want this town to be okay. So maybe the town itself is sort of a protagonist, but there's that. So as we go through the story, Cameron is learning things about this town and about its history and about this mysterious bridge that he had been sheltered from as he was growing up, all because he's of an age now where he's conscious of things like a woman going missing and her husband hanging around in town. Now he's old enough to connect the dots and ask questions and kind of explore on his own. So the point of the story is to find out what's up with this bridge, what's going on, what's the magic behind it, what are we dealing with. The bridge doesn't actually exist. If you're not traveling on this state road at a certain time, the bridge can't be found again, basically. I know. It's hard to explain because it's just a really complex book where nothing really takes the lead and carries through the entire story, if that makes sense. So the other aspect or element about the book happens to be one that I really enjoyed, but at the same time was kind of disappointed in, and that's this magical element. So Daisy and Claire, the older ladies who have taken in Cameron, they are witches, I guess. They do have some supernatural abilities. They have the ability to see things. And I love them as characters because they are the comic relief of the story. This is a pretty serious story dealing with pretty serious topics. And Daisy and Claire are these southern old women who provide a lot of relief for all of the other elements in the story. I really liked them as characters. I really liked the role that they play in the book as a whole, especially the ending, the climax of the story. But I also don't really understand them very well. Like, I'm sitting here struggling to tell you exactly what they are, exactly where their talents lie, because it's not really explained. This book has magical elements in it, supernatural elements. I don't know why. I don't know, like, if we could compare this to a fantasy novel, I would complain very much about the world building. For instance, there's one point in this story where Cameron goes into a room in his home that he's never been into before, and he walks in the door and it's filled with ghosts. Like, there are ghosts milling about in this area of the house. Likewise, there's a reference to a ghost who hangs out at the local bar. I mean, it's like everyone in this town acknowledges and knows of the existence of ghosts and walks amongst them and even communicates with them. But I'm not entirely sure how that fits into the story that we're being told about this bridge, and why it's so normal for these town residents to have all of these interactions with spirits. You see what I mean? It's just super. There's witches, there's ghosts, there's a creature that is responsible for repeated tragedies to this town, and it's just all very muddled. Did I find the book entertaining? Absolutely. I thought it was interesting. In fact, it was so interesting that I wanted more. I wanted to understand more. I wanted more explained to me, to really feel like I knew these people and knew where they were coming from and knew why they had formed this close-knit community amidst all of this strangeness. For me, probably the end was the best part. The end was suspenseful, dramatic, but again, Claire and Daisy's roles were very important to the climax, which also brought a little bit of humor to it without cheapening the whole thing. Sometimes when you're in the middle of a very serious, dramatic climax and you've got funny elements going on, I mean, that's dangerous. You can kind of make light of something that the reader is supposed to be taking very seriously. But I didn't feel that way. I actually thought it was a nice balance. This book mostly is about tone and ambiance and atmosphere, and less about real connection with any characters in particular or feeling much emotion. I think that it's sort of this snapshot into this world. I don't think we're there long enough to understand it entirely. We're either entertained by the bits that we get to see or we're not. In that regard, the toll doesn't work for me as a reader who really wants to get emotionally invested in either a character or an event in some way. That's just what works for me. Those are the books that I like the most, the books that affect me on a deeper emotional level, regardless of what that emotion is. And The Toll is just kind of, it doesn't delve too deeply into that. It's entertaining, absolutely. It's an interesting book. It's different from books that I typically read. And so all of those things are good. I was just confused by those things. I was confused trying to make it be a book that I would typically read. I can't turn this book into something that I'm comfortable with. I'm something that's familiar. I can't. Does that make any sense at all? All in all, I would recommend The Toll, but I would recommend it to people who are first fans of the supernatural. I would also recommend it to people who just truly prefer being told a story. And that sounds weird. I don't mean it to sound like we either like being told a story or we don't, or we like emotionally connecting or we don't. But there are readers who don't take it that seriously. Don't try to take everything as seriously as I do, who just like to be told a story. They don't need to relate. They don't need to be emotionally moved by everything, in which case The Toll wouldn't fail in any way for readers who just like to be told a story and who can accept a story at face value and not ask so many questions and not I'm a why person. Like, if I don't know the why of something, I struggle. If there are ghosts running around in a town or sitting in a room in a house not doing anything, like, I want to know why. So if those kinds of questions don't pop up for you, if knowing the answers to those things does not preoccupy your mind whilst you're reading, then I would absolutely recommend The Toll, because again, there's nothing that it did that I hated. I was entertained. I hope that's not disappointing to anybody. I hope that gives everybody a sense of whether or not this particular book is the one for them. The good news is I will probably be unhauling it for you guys whenever I do my next Claim My Unhaul. So if it really sounds like something you're interested in, be on the lookout for that. And if anything, my interest is actually piqued. I've gotten just a little, but not enough of this author that my interest is piqued. I want to know if The Toll is the best example of Sherry Priest's work, or if there's more about this author to discover. Chances are you'll be hearing about The Family Plot, one of her other books, very soon. But all in all, I would probably give this one 3 stars. I love the cover. I think the cover is beautiful. Chuck Wendig says, Sherry Priest is our new Queen of Darkness, folks. Time to kneel before her, lest she take our heads. So, pretty good praise. Thank you for picking this one out for me to read. It was an anticipated release of 2019, so I'm glad that I can check this one off. If you have any questions about The Toll that you don't think that I touched upon, let me know those down in the comment section below. Also, if you happen to have read this, or if you go off and read this, make sure that you tell me what you think about it down there as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all very soon.